Yeah, we're probably going to see a price drop in the value of Tesla shares on Monday morning. Now, that price drop might be 5%, it might be 4%, it might be more or less, and then it might start responding back up again because of course, bargain hunters. And of course, it'll also depend a lot on where the market is going tomorrow. And right now, I'm thinking that the market is going to may be continuing its sell-off on Monday. We need to test that 10% down level at this point, probably. So everything is kind of moving towards some negativity in equities and specifically in Tesla, as Elon, of course, if you haven't already heard it, has dropped the prices of the vehicles in China to match kind of the price drops that we had in the United States last week, and has dropped the price of full self-driving to $8,000. So if you don't have it now, you should probably consider getting your full self-driving for $8,000. I don't think you'll ever see this price again. I think this is a temporary cut. When I say temporary, maybe 4 months. I don't know, something like that. Maybe in August, it'll be bouncing back up again once we have the full robotaxi explanation and understand where the future is with regard to robotaxi. You're also, if you currently have the advanced driving system that you paid money for when you bought the car, but you didn't get full self-driving, you can now upgrade for just $2,000 to full self-driving. What a deal. Anyway, this is interesting times. Elon is clearly now super duper involved. I don't think he's ever not involved, but I think he is focused on the future of Tesla and what to do with regard to this transition period. And that's the key to the story. Just as Larry and I talked about yesterday, what is the transition? What is it going to look like? Well, we know what Elon has said. We're going to become an AI company specializing in robotaxis. But does that mean we're no longer in the car business, no longer in the energy storage business, no longer in semi-truck business, no longer in the potentially the dojo as another separate business? We're in all of those businesses, and the fundamental underlying hardware businesses are going to be phenomenal businesses. They're going to continue to grow rapidly. They're going to continue to be big money earners downstream. But we are in a transition to where they are going to seem tiny compared to the rest of the business. I've experienced this in my life in business. Maybe you have too. When I started my manufacturing company, our tire liners were the whole story. They were the biggest deal. They were the thing that was going to make us rich. Well, the tire liners turned out to be basically $1 million a year business. We thought it was going to be $1 billion. Well, no, that's not true. We thought it was going to be a lot more than $1 million a year, but it just the TAM wasn't there. You could not sell these tire liners, these products that were designed to stop puncture flats. You couldn't sell them in places like Iowa and Pennsylvania and basically anywhere else in the United States. You couldn't sell them in very big numbers because people in those places didn't experience flat tires in their bicycles at the same level as the people in the West Coast did, not even close. So we were a little surprised. We didn't maybe do as deep a homework as we should have in terms of the TAM. Well, so it was $1 million business, but then we started making bicycle water bottles, and that became a $4 million business. Well, $1 million business compared to a $4 million business doesn't seem, makes that tire liner business seem less important. It wasn't not important, it was just less important. We also sold a bunch of other things like Snoopy and Garfield bicycle horns and things of that nature. Well, those were even less. They were smaller. They were a couple 100,000. They did not get the attention. What? They didn't get the attention of the water bottle business because it was 10 times as big. So this is where we're going. All right. This is the future. The future is robotaxis, and the real future is Optimus bots. So let's start off with a quote this morning from Brett Adcock. Of course, he is the CEO of the Figure AI product with the Figure AI robot, and he says If you break that, this is so important, please listen. If you break down the bill of materials for a humanoid robot, you are left with a straightforward breakdown. Structures, motors, battery cells, PCBs, CPU, GPU, and cameras. It is 10 times or 10 times less parts than a car and 20 times less mass. There's no limiting factor getting the cost down to 20,000 with enough manufacturing volumes. The engineering difficulty will be getting the robot reliability high enough to induce enough demand for millions of units. Challenging, but doable. So tear this thing apart a little bit here. 10 times less parts, 20 times less mass than a car. Therefore, there's no limiting factor getting the cost. And what he means by cost here is the selling cost. All right. He thinks the selling cost will get down to 20,000. Does he think that's going to happen next year? No. Does he think this will happen 5 years from now? Probably not. Okay. So what he's talking about is years from now when you're selling millions and millions and millions of these robots and you've got everything else worked out, you as a consumer will be able to buy a robot for your home for $20,000 and quite frankly, maybe less. All right. Okay, what does he also say? He says the engineering difficulty will be getting the robot reliability high enough to induce the demand. So he says that's challenging, but doable. I think I'm shocked that he even thinks it's challenging. But we'll see. Okay, over the next few months, we'll see what happens with that. Well, he goes on to say in another post on X, he says, you will rent it for $500 a month. Well, if I had a choice of buying for 20,000 and renting for $500 a month, I think I would be buying for 20,000. So a little bit of a disconnect here for me with Brent on this, but if you want to think about it that way, that you'll rent a robot for $500 a month, once again, decide what it can do in your home, mowing the lawn, doing the laundry. I'm just keep talking about massages, really great massages. Um, so that's just me. Anyway, that's the future, folks. Okay, the numbers, the dollars, the profits are going to be in these robots. And that's what Elon's talking about in terms of the transition. All right. Sawyer Merritt says this morning, says we currently own Tesla's enhanced autopilot, which I just said a minute ago. You can now buy that. You can now upgrade for $2,000 to the FSD. And this also the price cuts in China. He goes on to say $2,000 price cuts, kind of like the Model Y last week. I doubt if we'll see cuts in the Model 3. Interesting that we have not seen any cuts in Europe yet. We will possibly hear more about that next week. Maybe there's not any need for price cuts right now in Europe. CB underscore Doge says this morning, he says, I have very high confidence in the long-term value of Tesla. I really see a path to 5 times, maybe a 10 times increase in the value of the company. Personally, I see a path to 100 times value of the current value. So we're at $150 now. 1,500. Okay, how about 15,000? Yeah, that's very doable when the Optimus bot is available in numbers. All right. Elon Musk responds to Doge. He said to CB underscore Doge. He says, lots of work to achieve that, but yes. All right. Now, this is a comment that we've heard. Elon has made comments on the value of the company before. He's also made a lot of comments over the years on the value of the stock at any given time. He's even said the price is crazy high and the price went down. He's said, all kinds. I didn't go back and look up all the quotes, but he's made a number of different statements about the value of the company. But the most important one, I think, that he made, and which he has not walked away from, is that the company will be worth the equivalent of the 2 largest capex companies in the world. So at the time, it's always changing. It was Apple and Amoco or Aramco, and the combined value was around 5 trillion, which is what we're talking about here. Now it's Microsoft, and I forget who's in second place right now, but it's been shifting around. I don't think is Apple now in second place? Could be. Anyway, but we're still talking around 5 to 6 trillion. So take that into consideration. This is what Elon is looking at in terms of a near time price point. So if Elon, who has been right over and over and over again, yeah, you can say, oh, take you 5 years to get the FSD. It takes you this long to get your robotaxi, your semi trucks out. Oh, it took 4 years longer to get the cyber trucks out. Yeah, okay. All those things though are going to happen, and I think if you're in this program, if you're listening to this program right now, you probably think all those things are going to happen. Well, I'm highly confident that FSD and robotaxi is going to happen this year. I think there's a very good chance. Well, I've already explained all that, what I think is going to happen on 8/8. Connecting the dots. So if you believe all those things and you believe that it's got even a remote chance of going 10 times and then some kind of a chance, more remote than that, of going to 100 times its current value, and you look at the current value of the stock in any way you want to add it up, and you think it's worth less than, let's say, $100. So yeah, you might still take another haircut of a third. You might go from 150 to 100. Oh well, oh well, and maybe you're a Gary Black and you go, oh, well, I think I'll get out at 150, get back at 100. Yeah, but what happens if the bargain hunters decide it's never going to get down to 100? In fact, they start pumping it back up to 180. Well, those things happen, right? Maybe some people start believing what Elon's saying. All right, connecting the dots is out this morning. He makes some compelling arguments for delaying the compact vehicles in favor of prioritizing the robotaxi version of the Gen 3 platform. And the most compelling of these is simple. Assuming you're 99% confident that a robotaxi is possible by mid-2025, which would you rather build, assuming you can't do both at once? Okay, what are you going to build? Are you going to build a car that you're maybe going to get let's see, $25,000, a 25%, maybe a 20% margin. So maybe you're going to make $5,000 on it before overhead. Or are you going to sell a robotaxi that maybe you're going to make $5,000 a year on? Which one are you going to do? I don't know. Or you're going to, yeah, you're going to make $5,000 a year one way or the other. Anyway, the choice is obvious. You want to start producing the robotaxis as fast as you can until you start to see any indication that you've saturated the market. And, even if you are nowhere near saturating the market, maybe the bandwidth for the company is capable to still do the compact, 3 months later, 6 months later. Oh, well, nobody will care. You will not care whether or not the company's making the compact car if the robotaxi happens even by mid-2025. Believe me, it will be like those liners. It'll be like the Snoopy horns by comparison, whether they ever make those cars. And you'll be very interested in how many robotaxis can we get on the road. Anyway, and also his second point was the longer you wait to introduce the compact car, the lower the cost of goods will be as battery prices continue to come down and Tesla continues to build up their capacity to make the batteries in the United States. So it's about becoming more profitable. The worried analysts are not really taking into consideration how hard it is to make any serious money on a $25,000 car, even for Tesla. All right, this is from Heinrich Zane this morning. He says, Tesla semi-deliveries. The prototype production facility is ramping up now, and the next tranche of semis will likely be delivered to PepsiCo. The natives are getting restless after 7 years. I sure hope the high volume construction picks up speed, but as I mentioned before, I predict the prototype plant will produce 500 to 1,000 semis before real high volume production begins. That would be, say, between now and the first quarter of 2025. I hope Elon provides a comprehensive update on the call on Wednesday. Maybe invite the head of the semi program and then so that would be. Now, he also said, I hope that Elon provides a comprehensive update on the call on Tuesday. Somebody else said Tuesday the other day. I'm almost 100% sure. I didn't look this up. I'm about 100% sure the earnings call is on Wednesday. Let me know in the comments below if I'm messed up on that. All right, the Kobesi letter is out this morning. He says the U.S. Treasury bills now yield 4 times more than the S&P 500's dividend. This is the most since the dot-com bubble. As usual with Kobesi, I really like his analysis. I really despise I'm sorry, I really like his data. I really just very rarely agree with this analysis. So, okay, is it the same kind of spread since the dot-com bubble? He wants to make that comparison because he thinks we're in some kind of bubble. We are not in the same kind of bubble at all. It's not even close. He says over the last 100 years, a multiple this high has only been seen one time. By comparison, even in the financial crisis, this metric was at 3 times. So with interest rates cuts being priced out, it is likely we see interest rates on bonds continue to push higher. This will keep U.S. T-bill rates elevated and perhaps push past these 2000, the differentiation he was just talking about will be even higher. I think that's unlikely. I think we are now seeing peak treasuries. I don't think the Fed's going to raise. I think there's a extremely low likelihood of the Fed raising. I think that the Fed will not cut the rest of this year. It will probably be into 2025 before they begin cutting. I do think inflation will maintain in these levels now or start to drop a little. And we'll see. I'm feeling some gut sense of a change in the overall economy. Again, not going to go into a real recession, at least this year. Maybe could go into a recession next year. I do think we're going to have to blow, at least get down to that 10% drop in the overall market. Larry said yesterday, he said, pay attention to what happens to NVIDIA. It will be the bellwether right now. I'm not even sure of that. Larry and I agree on so much, but I'm thinking NVIDIA right now is kind of like Tesla was. It is a loose cannon. It's going to be doing a lot of stuff on its own and not necessarily be a leader in the market. It may be a outsized impact on the Nasdaq and the S&P, but it's not necessarily going to lead and others follow after that. In fact, there might be, more of a transition out of tech and into some of the other stocks. Okay, I've got to wrap it up. I have got a breakfast date with my family. And so, as always, I will do the show tonight. I promise you, even on vacation, Sunday night is too important not to do. I will do the Sunday night show. We will talk about what's going to happen in markets coming up this week. And it has been fantastic talking to you.